Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Mindbody Medicine for Chronic Pain. My name is Sean Hershey, and I am your host. I am a psychotherapist, and I specialize in helping you heal from chronic pain and chronic symptoms. And yes, you can heal from chronic pain and from chronic symptoms using emotional and psychological modalities. In fact, in most cases of chronic pain, the only way to heal is using emotional and psychological modalities. Because most of you listening, you already know all the physical and structural modalities you've used, like all the modalities that have been based on the idea that something is structurally wrong with your body and it needs to be physically fixed. Those modalities haven't worked for you. Those modalities have not healed your pain and they've not stopped your symptoms. Healing chronic pain is about emotional and psychological healing. And with that mindset, you can truly heal chronic pain. Most people don't even know that's possible, but it is. Okay, today's conversation: how to deal with shame, how to heal from chronic pain and chronic conditions, and what shame has to do with it. What are the right things to do to heal? What if I'm doing the right things the wrong way, which unfortunately happens all the time, doing good things with an energy that's just not helpful? Why is shame so central to chronic pain healing? Today, we are talking with psychotherapist Ellen Ronka, and this is part 1 of how to handle shame. This is such a good, rich, long conversation that but it is so good. It's like it has to be this long, and so we're doing a two-parter. This is the first two-parter podcast I've ever done, and welcome to part 1. So I met Ellen Ronka at the ATNS conference. And of those of you who listen to the podcast, if you listen closely, you have already heard of her because Ellen. So my first guest this season 3, episode 1, was a wonderful conversation with Skylar Whitman. Skylar, you can go back to listen to that one if you're interested. By all means, highly recommend if you haven't gotten to that one yet. Skylar participated in one of Ellen's coaching programs. And here we are now actually talking to Ellen. So I only knew about Ellen from talking to Skylar, and then I met Ellen at the conference, at the ATNS conference, which was this September. And she was so great. We just had like a great conversation, great vibes, hit it off. And I was like, Ellen was awesome. Vibing. And okay, let me say this before we talk to Ellen. At the end of the ATNS conference, we're all in this big, auditorium space. There's a ton of people in there. And as we're winding down, one of the facilitators was like, now that we've gone through this multi-day process, we've seen, I mean, it was great. The conference was so inspiring. And one of the facilitators was like, what is your hope for the future of this work? And, people running, passing the microphone around. Like, my hope is, that like all the patients who have chronic back pain, like I had, can hear about this and know that there's hope to get better. My hope is that people can cure their IBS. My hope is that people will understand that long COVID is a neuroplastic condition. Like all great stuff. Like a, a little basic, but great. Then Ellen raises her hand. She gets the microphone. And she says this. I forget the exact quote, but it was something along the lines of, my hope is that as people learn to get in touch with their emotions and get in touch with their true selves and let go of shame for who they are, which is what this work leads one to do, my hope is that that collective energy radically changes the way human beings exist with each other on this planet. And I was like, Mike, drop. Like, she just took it there. Like, this is a cool person. Thinking outside the box, thinking big, and thinking correctly, because that is accurate. For those of you who know, like you've been on this path for a while, you know that this radically changes the way that you relate to yourself, your emotions, and to other people. And for those of you who haven't had that experience yet, that is what is in store for you if you stick on this path. Okay. If you want to take your healing deeper and you would like a therapist to help you to do that, awesome. I would love to help you. I am available. And I would be happy to work with you. I'd be happy to tune into you and help you tune into yourself, and be with you as you're on this journey and help you figure out, like, what are you missing? Why aren't you healing yet? What are the blocks? What's in your way? I would love to help you with that and help you problem solve and help you get on the right path that will really lead to healing. If you're interested in a consultation for weekly individual therapy, you can find me at SeanHershey.com or Mindbody Medicine for Chronic Pain.com. They will both take you right there, and you can contact me there very easily. I'd love to hear from you. If you want to find Ellen, she has what seems to be an awesome program. If you want a full, like basically a really excellent infomercial for how great the program is, season 3, episode 1 with Skylar Whitman, that shit speaks for itself. Ellen's program is called Chronic to Cured. It looks amazing. You can find it at it's Chronic to Cured, chronic like TO cured.com. All the links for all that stuff are in the show notes, so you can find it down there as well. Okay, now, without further ado, let's talk to Ellen. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Mindbody Medicine for Chronic Pain podcast. I'm here today with a wonderful guest, Ellen Ronka. Hi, Ellen.
Hello, Sean, and everyone.
So glad you're here. And Ellen and I met at the recent ATNS conference. And Ellen, of course, is already, for those who listen to this podcast, Ellen is already low-key famous on this podcast because someone who participated in her coaching program came on. That was season 3, episode 1. You can check that one out. Her name was Sky. So we already know you, Ellen, but welcome.
Thank you.
Of course. Why don't we start with you? You can introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do.
All right. Well, so I'm Ellen Ronka. Started out my career as a psychotherapist. That's actually after a fair amount of wandering, trying to figure out what to do with my career. But I'm trained as a psychotherapist, but now I run a program called Chronic to Cured that I built to basically solve for all the problems that I encountered in my own healing journey because I didn't have this model then. And I made lots of mistakes along the way, so I'm trying to correct for that. Anyway, my chronic symptom, I won't even just say pain because it was way more than just pain, journey lasted about 2.5 decades, started in my late 20s. And I don't know. What else do you want to know? I practice out in Portsmouth. What do inquiring minds want to know?
Let's get into, I think many inquiring minds listen to the podcast will want to know first about your own story. So 2.5 decades. Wow. Let's talk.
Yeah. It's convoluted. I will just say it's messy and convoluted. Way longer than I believe it had to be. There are certain things that
Sure.
we're just not ready to look at, and so that takes a while. But this was not that. I didn't have the model. I just didn't have the right information. But what's ironic about that is that I was a psychotherapist I was training to getting my master's in counseling in the holistic studies specialization at Lesley University, which was part of why I picked that school, honestly. So the fact that
let me just say, Ellen, some of my worst symptoms were during the years that I was in social work school. Some of my worst symptoms, and I had no idea. I didn't know the connection. Truly.
Well, thank you, that's very validating, yes. The irony is I was in therapy, right? And
Yeah.
you're exactly right. Graduate school is very stressful, especially when you're trying to balance all kinds of things. So, and I think looking back, I know that I had some symptoms before that, but
Mhm.
mild and sort of tolerable, right? But grad school is really when they kicked up, and but I was in therapy the whole time, and I that's one of the one of the things I really struggle with is that wow, I even understood the mind-body connection to some extent, I believed in it.
Mm. Mhm.
I'd started doing, meditation, and I was seeing holistic doctors and that kind of thing, and the fact that I went so long without understanding key things for healing is just such a shame. It's like a crying
Yeah.
shame, The
Yeah.
the wasted time, the emotional turmoil, it's just painful to think about. But we're gonna do it anyway because I wanna spare some people of it. So
Yeah, right, right, I'm glad you're saying that because that is so real. The years that chronic pain and symptoms just, like, take off people's lives, years of distraction, years of, like, misery,
oh,
and I it doesn't need to be that way, and yet, here we are. For a lot of us, it is. But okay, well, why don't you, like, what symptoms did you have? A lot of people listening to the podcast particularly relate to, like, "Oh, she had a symptom similar to mine," or that sort of thing. So give us the story. What happened?
yeah, so, started with, well, I had a virus, and I got over the virus. It was a solid virus, but, I had body aches afterwards and fatigue that didn't go away. And discovered a low thyroid or underfunctioning thyroid and, started, sort of getting diagnoses and allergies. I won't take you through all the diagnoses, but basically it started off as extreme fatigue. Like, I might feel
Mm,
fine. And then it was like someone just took a syringe and zapped, like took all the energy out of my body. Like it could happen so
wow.
fast. And that didn't make any sense to me. Body aches, like, oh, I used to just crave pressure on all of my limbs to just
Mm.
give me like to resolve that deep, deep ache. Um, GI issues, you pick one. I had them, probably all of them. We've had um,
GI issues were my worst
I'm
symptom
so
for sure.
sorry. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, it sucks, right?
Um, and I quickly, 'cause, and we can get into this more later, but my style was to try to figure it out, to
Yeah.
have agency, to have some level of control. So, started watching what I ate, and that just, eventually, especially once what I got with a functional medicine doctor, we identified food allergies, air quotes. And then just started avoiding foods and such. I had always been a robust eater, loved eating, foodie really. So
Mm,
that was just depressing and demoralizing.
yeah.
But so let's see, there were rashes, those were lesser, but it's sort of when you start having all these extra little symptoms, you start feeling really quite neurotic and hypervigilant about what's happening in your body, right?
Yeah.
Yeast infections, what else? They all kind of blur in and out because they weren't always all of them. Those were the predominant ones that were kind of tracked through the whole process. Um,
Mhm.
but at some point, vestibular problems became an issue, like some vertigo episodes. I did have some headaches. Thank God, migraine is like, I think I've had two in my life.
Mm,
But I had, I think, vestibular migraines.
mm,
That's what they would have been called, but I didn't even by then I was like not even pursuing diagnoses because
yeah.
that I don't know why. I don't even know what I would have said, but that just felt like such a dead end. So I would have been diagnosed with
Yeah.
fibromyalgia and chronic fatigue, but I didn't.
Yeah.
Even then, I knew well enough to know, like, I don't want that diagnosis because it's a junk diagnosis. It doesn't do you any good. There's nothing to do with it. Like,
I totally know the feeling. I resisted the diagnosis of IBS for a long time because I was like, "That means nothing,"
yeah,
you
yeah,
know? And still, I mean, still it means nothing. And I have another memory of, like, I used to go to a chiropractor for my hip, and which it was, to in my mind, it was like a low, kind of like, low, not invasive
sure,
thing to do.
sure.
And it was at Mount Sinai Hospital, and across the, not even street, like across the hallway. It was like the chiropractor's office was on one side of the spine hallway, and the other side was what was called the Mount Sinai Spine Center. And I remember feeling very scared of that. People would be coming in and out with like casts, like like walkers, young people with canes and stuff. That the Mount Sinai Spine Center really scared me, and I was like, someday I will probably need to go to a place like that.
Oh,
That was my
oh,
mentality. And finding this work has removed the fear of the Mount Sinai
tot
Spine Center. And I'm just like, I'm
totally.
so glad. I'm so glad that at that time in my like early 30s that I stuck to like the lower invasive stuff,
Oh,
and,
yeah.
and that I didn't go that route. So
Yeah,
I
yeah.
totally feel you. But yes, go on.
It's really powerful, though, those fear things. I'll give you an example of how that
Yes.
fear played out for me, because so my mother, of course, growing up, didn't know this, but she had loads and loads of neuroplastic symptoms. They did not
Right.
present the same way mine eventually did, because I was healthy for most of my school-age years, right through
Mm.
high school and all. But, she had a lot of GI issues. She got infections very easily, body aches, didn't sleep, that kinda stuff. And and she used to say, "You're just like me." Once these symptoms started showing up in my mid to late 20s,
Mhm.
she used to say, "You're just like me," and I was like, Don't say that, it's like a curse.
Yeah.
I don't want
Yeah.
that. I don't wanna be like
Yeah.
you." Sorry.
Yes.
And,
Yes. No, you're right.
and I actually think that that's a big part of what set me up, believe it or not, to drag out my recovery process, because I so badly didn't wanna be like her, not just with her symptoms, but in the way she handled her symptoms, which was she sort of had a surrendered approach to it. She was like, "This is just my body."
Yeah.
Doctors just don't know what to do with me. There's almost a point of pride maybe, or, I don't really know exactly what that was, but, all I'm saying is I hated that response. Like, I
Yeah.
wanted to feel like I had some control over this. Plus I was young,
Yeah.
like, that wasn't acceptable to me. And because of
Yeah.
that, I did the intensity thing that, in pain reprocessing therapy, we talk about PRT hereafter. The way we talk about this intensity thing, I did it in spades. And I do think it was a reaction to my mother's approach, because she just
Yeah.
sort of like collapsed into it.
That
Um,
totally makes sense.
yeah.
And it's what really stands out to me from what you're saying is like how healing is so hard, for your mom to have this like laissez-faire kind of like defeatist well, maybe not laissez-faire is not right, but this defeatist attitude, like something's just wrong with me and it just is what it is. That didn't help her feel better. You having this attitude like I'm gonna fix this, that didn't work. There's
No,
so many things
right?
that don't work.
So true. And here we are. We've already landed in the family of origin setup for why I have all these symptoms. And I'm happy to talk about that, in the sense that,
Sure.
what you just described is that duality, right? Like the two extremes. And that's what I was raised in. There was like a right and wrong, a black and white, you're in, out, kind of, you're good girl, bad girl, and
Sure.
because of that, I think so much of that dualistic thinking drove my approach to recovery too. So finding that middle ground of the both, and I want to get better, but I've got to be gentle, and not too attached to outcome and all that, like, that was just I swear. I think it would have been easier if someone had really laid out what I need to do in that, and tied a very direct line from that to, "Here's how you'll heal." But I really, I felt like I sort of stumbled into that through my spirituality, through mindfulness, through, just this day in, day out battle with, I feel terrible, but I have to accept that somehow. And I don't know. I felt like I was like really a big part, the vast majority of my time felt like me bumping around in the dark in a house that I'd never been in, right? Not my own
Yeah.
house where I have some frame of reference, a totally different house.
Yeah.
So it's wild. I can even feel a little bit of grief coming up for myself just about that. Like, it's just so sad, because in so many ways it's so unnecessary. And yet,
Yeah.
back when that was happening, we didn't have the books. We didn't have podcasts like yours. I don't think. I mean, I don't even think I was on the internet that much. This was
Sure.
like late 90s. Like the internet
Wow.
wasn't the thing. Social media wasn't really a thing. So,
Right.
right?
Right.
I mean, I didn't even have a cell phone until like a non-flip phone for, my point is all these mediums by which we get this information now for the mind body
Mhm.
model. None of it was there when I first got it all.
Totally.
Yeah.
And wouldn't it be great to get it from an actual
How
doctor,
about
you
that?
know?
How
Like, would it
how about that?
right.
And, here's another part of my story. I'm with you on that. On the one hand, it's interesting because the first, like, functional medicine doctor, I wouldn't have even called him that, I didn't even know that word, but I think he functioned that way. Um, he was all about sort of telling me to decrease my stress, told me to get into therapy, I already was, but, told me you need to start meditating, that kind of stuff. So he was, like, on the right track, but the thing is he never explained the model to me. Like, he never explained this mechanism by, like, when you're in chronic fight or flight, it suppresses all these other things. And I think I understood the part about suppressing immune system that made sense to me, but so many of my symptoms weren't really about immune system. And so
Right.
I didn't understand pain is a danger signal. It's your alarm
Right.
mechanism. Pain or all these other symptoms, right? That they are indications that something's not right. And I think that it's so sad to me because that is such a simple, straightforward piece of information. And
Right.
if I had
Right.
understood it, I think this is why in my program I'm so all about the why of what you're doing.
Mm.
Because at any given moment, you could make two different choices, but and if the energy with which you do them really matters, and you could do
Yes.
either choice with the right energy or the wrong energy.
Totally.
Right?
Totally.
And so
Yes.
this is why, like, I feel so strongly about that because that's the thing I didn't have, because after that doctor, I had another doctor who was very kind, nurturing, spent way more time with me than your average doctor, even though it was still
Mm.
under the insurance model, bless her.
Hmm.
However, she was giving me the right principles, but I still didn't have the scaffolding. I didn't understand the basics of the model. So basically, I'd go
Mhm.
to her and I'd say, like, "Do you think I should do this or this? Or what do I do when this happens?" But I didn't have the bones
The foundation. Totally.
correct. And
Yes.
was that her fault? I don't think so. Like, as it was, we were having these long appointments that were so atypical for, managed care, healthcare.
Right. Right.
It's just I don't think actually, believe it or I just don't think your PCP should be the person who directs you to this model. You're
Mm.
the way healthcare is run now, PCPs don't have that time to explain all the nuances of this model, right?
Totally,
So if
totally.
they
I honestly like, I have my PCP listed, like, on an insurance card somewhere. I'm like, "I've seen that man maybe twice in my life." You know what I mean? Like, I don't even know who that is.
You're so funny.
You know what I mean?
You're so funny. Right. So, to try to tie this up, let's see, in terms of my story, because I told you it's a long ass story.
Yeah. Well,
Um,
let me just pull this out
sure.
so for people listening. I think it's so important. The thing that you're saying around like not having the bones and not having
Yeah.
the foundation, I think that is so real for so many people. And to find I think a lot of people experience like kind of, rooting around in that dark house that's not even yours, how the way you're saying it. People experience that like okay, yeah, sure, stress makes my pain worse. Better to not be stressed,
Correct.
obviously. But people don't have like the foundational knowledge, like, oh, this is actually the core. Like emotional and psychological factors are the center of it. They're not just like kind of part of it or maybe, related in some way. It's like that's actually the core. Is that what you're talking about? Like you lacked that?
Yes. But even right down to, for example, like even how you do things, and this will get into the things I was doing right, but in the wrong way, or the wrong things I was doing with the sort of right, whatever. Um,
Yeah, no, that's great. Yes,
uh,
yes. Let's
but
continue with the story and yes, please.
yeah, but I'll just say, for example, like my PCP told me to meditate. Okay, I meditated, but when I meditated, usually first thing in the morning. Well, that's when I was most calm. And on one hand, that's really good because it's already easy to practice being calm in your meditation, right? But when you get the most traction for neuroplasticity is when you're really you're really activated, and you take even 1, 2, even 3 minutes, right? to soothe. Even if you don't get yourself all the way down to that calm place, that is gold for
Mm.
neuroplasticity, right? And that's a principle I just didn't understand. And something that's simple. So yes, the psychological and emotional, like I simply didn't know. I journaled and journaled and journaled. I have boxes. I tell you what, Sean, you would learn so much about me if you found the boxes in my basement.
Good to know. If I'm ever up in New Hampshire and I have, some extra time to break into your house.
Right.
Okay,
You're
go
so
ahead.
funny. I have boxes and boxes, and I even got in touch with anger. This is also why I'm talking about the nuance of how to apply the model that really it is back to even the bones, because I didn't know what to do with the anger.
Mhm.
And I think the whole time I was feeling guilty or shameful, back to our big topic for today, shame, about the anger. So in a lot of ways, expressing that anger was only part of the deal, and I don't think it was curative because I didn't know how to learn from the emotion to do something different.
Mhm.
And for that,
Okay.
I think it's kind of a major bummer that I was in therapy the whole time and no therapist really figured out how to tell me that. That said, I should, in fairness, say God knows how much resistance I had, right? You don't know it when you're in
Sure.
it. So I don't
Right.
know. Maybe, one of my old therapists will listen to this. Probably not. But if they did, they might be like, "I know, that was terrible," trying to get her to see that.
Totally. I know exactly what you mean. I know exactly what you mean. Because I always think of myself as like, oh, I'm such a fun, easy, great client. And I'm like, I'm sure several therapists are like, Sean Hershey drives me crazy, but for that exact reason. But okay, let's definitely I want to get into like shame and if there's more kind of doing right things the wrong way.
Yes.
Let's get into that. But let's stick with this for a minute because people listening, I'm sure, are curious.
Yeah.
When you're saying like I was feeling anger, but I didn't know what to do with it. How do you handle that now? And how do you teach people to handle that now? You know what I mean?
Oh my gosh. I'm really quite systematic about it because that's what I
Okay,
know. I always
great.
talk about like learning in the laboratory of me. And then one of my favorite things is to just try to break down what I do myself and make it very, systematic for other people so that they can learn wherever
Cool.
they kind of break it down. So, or wherever they're breaking down in the process, I mean.
Right.
So, first thing I do is show people, like, so when you're going to express an emotion, where are there's so many steps in that.
Mhm,
Do you even know that you're having an emotion?
mhm,
You're having it, but do you know which emotion it is?
mhm.
Do you think, can you make it conscious and name it? Are you judging yourself while you're having it?
Right.
Um, are you able to feel it fully in your body without trying to stop it, resist it, tell yourself a negative story about it?
Mhm,
Um, once you're feeling, and often the stories keep you stuck in it. So how to stay out of the story about it. I'm always going to feel this way. Shame on me for feeling this way. That kind of story is what I mean.
mhm,
And then literally how to like feel it to its depth so that it
mhm,
can keep moving. Like I always say, your emotion, yourself, your body is like a conduit. It's like an empty hose through which emotion runs, or
mm,
you can think of a cord where electricity runs through it. I think the hose is a little better because it gives you this visual of water moving through it. And at a
mhm,
certain point, you do run out of the emotion
mhm,
if you don't add stories to it. Um, but you have to not be scared of the emotions. So there's a big part about not judging the emotion. So does that hang you up? Um,
mhm,
and then the like resolution of it to me is always about soothing, especially if it was an unpleasant emotion, right? We don't usually have problems
mhm,
with the good one, the good feeling ones. I don't like to call them negative and positive emotions because I think they're all part of our equipment. Anyway, so how to learn the lesson from the emotion. If I'm really angry at my boss for criticizing me all the time, well, maybe I need to have a conversation with my boss, or maybe I need to
mhm,
look at a different job, or
mhm,
maybe I need to get feedback about, something that's in the dynamic with the boss, right?
mhm,
So maybe there's some adjustment, not just spewing. And I think there is some problem in the mind body field. There's a lot of talk about expressive stuff,
mhm.
expressing the emotions, but less talk about how do you get the message from the emotion? They're information. They're like that red light or green light at at an intersection. They're giving you information about what to do.
Right. Yeah. Yeah,
Um,
yeah, I think that's so important. Right, because spewing is one thing, sure. You can still be spewing your emotions and hate your emotions and be judging your emotions, and I think it's really important the way that you're framing this as, like, it's a red light or a green light, like, it means something about you and what you need.
exactly, exactly. I think so many of us, I'm sure that I did, I know that I did, found my emotions very inconvenient.
Same. Oh my god, still to this day, but before I found this, whoa. I was raised to feel, and my mom is a therapist, and I was raised to, like, feel emotions, like, push it aside, kind of regulate your way out of it. Not that it was like, "Oh, it's information about who you truly are and what you really need, and let's honor that. That's good." Not that.
Oh,
No.
damn. Oh, it's so I gotta say, we gotta take a moment, like, you had a mother who was a therapist, and so the training goes very deep for you, like, I mean, it's one thing to have parents who were, feeling around in the dark too about emotions, but you had a mother who was supposedly an expert.
Right.
I'm
Yes.
so sorry.
Indeed. I appreciate that.
I
Thank you.
I
Yeah.
I actually feel you quite a bit because in my case, both of my parents were educators, of
Mm.
young kids, and so in my family, there was a, like, sort of they know kids.
Same. Literally, Ellen, same.
Yeah, and we could probably have a whole hour conversation on that, Sean.
Right, right. Well, and let me just say that I used to think, like, how before I found mind body work, I really and in the early days of finding it too, I would think to myself, like, how, like, my parents were so perfect
Mm.
and knew so much, and were so good. How did I turn out so fucked up?
Oh,
You know? And I really believed that it was me,
oh,
certainly I've had many issues I've faced in my life. It's not just like my parents caused everything, but it was part of it. It's definitely part of it.
really, and it's like it's a both and parents, all you parents who are listening, right? It's like you're doing your darndest. You're doing what you know to do based on the kind of parenting you got, and also mistakes are made that are sort of pervasive, consistent patterns that set us up for these things. And I always say to parents, I say, in my opinion, the best way to be the best possible parent you can be is to be willing to admit your mistakes and to be really humble with your kids, and to be
Mhm.
curious about what they need for out of from their parents. Because
Yeah, I will just oh, yeah, yeah, go ahead.
'Cause it just I think when a kid and I think this was my experience, when I would sort of pipe up about something that wasn't working for me, I got kinda squashed and dismissed, which didn't help, we'll just say.
Of course. Yeah, right? No, of course. And I just wanna say, like, in response to that, the advice you give to parents about, like, being humble and admitting your mistakes or even being curious about your mistakes, I think that advice is very profound because the way that lands with me is that I would not have had the belief that my problems were all my fault if that dynamic had been present in my family. Like, exactly what you're advising would have saved me from a lot of self-blame.
Uh,
So, and I'm sure that's true for a lot of people.
yeah.
So, for people listening, take Ellen's advice.
You know, I mean, I think it's any human relationship, right? Like, we cannot
Right,
possibly be perfect. All we can hope for, and really truly, this is your best case scenario in a human relationship. Dogs, not so much, they're so forgiving, but, like, in a human relationship, when we mess up, if both of us can say, "I'm genuinely sorry, I realize that what I did hurt you," and the other person can really hear that and validate it, even if they never meant it, and they don't tell you in the process they never meant it to defend their character, back to shame.
right,
Sorry, that's the
right.
sermon I'm gonna preach in a little bit. Anyway,
Yeah,
if
well,
if
yes.
that's the best case scenario, right? 2 humans who can acknowledge their foibles to each other, how we hurt each other, and then keep moving and keep
Yeah,
trying to grow and all that, like, that's as good as it gets.
I love that. Yeah, I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
Let's go to shame. Where and we can look at this through the lens of, like, healing and doing the not doing the right things or doing the right things wrong.
Yes.
Let's talk about your
Yeah.
discovery of the centrality of shame.
Yes.
Let's go there.
Yes. It occurred to me that only because a little bit ago you said, our listeners like to know that you can relate to their symptoms. I feel like I should add
Oh, yeah,
a
yeah.
few more.
Sure, please
eventually
do.
there was
Yeah.
insomnia,
Yeah.
there was chronic seasickness, like a little bit of
Oh.
queasiness, what I called the dizzy through the eyes, which was different from a vertigo episode and different from just, bumping into things when I got up.
Mm.
Um,
A
so
lot.
there was like, exercise intolerance. There was a chronic psoas spasm for a good couple years.
Oh,
There
wow.
were at points, you know, muscle spasm, knots, pain in shoulders, neck, back. That wasn't, in some ways, I think honestly that would have saved me if I had had that because I would have found a book on back pain, like I would have found Sarno. I didn't find Sarno, you
Sure.
know?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, not till much later, but it didn't make any sense to me because
Right, it's not your symptom.
that, and also his explanation of, the sort of oxygen deprivation thing didn't make any sense to me for the allergies, the dizziness, and
Yeah.
I should say one of the biggest symptoms, honestly, that has if I have any dribs and drabs now of symptoms, it's this one. It's chemical sensitivity. I really struggle with
Mm.
all the body products that people wear, particularly
Mm.
laundry detergents and such. So,
Got it.
uh,
Well, okay, let's do that then before we get into shame.
yeah.
How are you feeling now? Because this
Oh,
is a
great.
lot of symptoms, and I'm
Oh
like,
my
"Oh, wow, you have been through it."
god.
How are you feeling now?
You know what? Fabulous, really. Like, I think people get disappointed when they hear the quote unquote mind body experts say that they still occasionally have symptoms. That discourages them. It's not discouraging when you come to the other side because one, my symptoms aren't chronic. Two, I think of my body as my very best friend. It's telling me what no one else is gonna tell me. And it knows better than whatever my therapist would have known for sure,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Or even my best friend. So I do get sensations, and sometimes they'll persist for a few months. Depends on how deep the thing is.
Mhm,
Um,
mhm,
if I'm really, really mad at someone for, and that's unresolved, I might have a couple bad nights of sleep, but I know what to do
mhm,
now. I wake up, if it's keeping me up, I get up, I journal, I have a power session journaling, and then I
mhm,
can go back to sleep. So, I don't, that my new hobby that was really sort of a big part of my healing recovery process, is dancing at partner dancing.
awesome.
Yeah, like it started with ballroom, but then Latin, then Lindy Hop, and now it's really West Coast swing. Um,
Alright,
yeah,
that sounds super fun.
totally,
Awesome.
and a fabulous, environment for practicing this turning down the chemical sensitivity because I'm like
Mm,
exposed to, like, industrial strength deodorants when I'm being turned 100 times. Yeah,
yeah.
I like to say for me, in my recovery process, fun was the final frontier, like, I only got so much better until I really found what was fun, and I'd played sports growing up, but I think I'd always wanted to dance. Honestly, I came from a sporty family, and I did well in sports, love them, grateful for that
Mm,
experience, but really, I think I'm a dancer at heart.
I love that.
And,
Aw.
so dancing, for a woman who had such severe vestibular issues, the fact that I can turn 100 times in a night, and not get dizzy is like proof positive you can heal.
Yes,
So,
yes.
I will say, full disclosure, chemical sensitivity is still a little bit of a challenge. It doesn't keep me from doing anything.
Mhm.
Um, but I don't love it, like, to sit real close to someone on a couch or in where if they are using Tide laundry detergent, I can smell that about
Mhm.
20 feet away, and I don't love it.
Got it. Yeah, 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 got it, it's so great to hear, like, things are surely like, wouldn't it be great if, like, the body was invincible? And again, like, you didn't have emotional reactions that showed up in your body, or your body didn't respond to emotions or whatever, and, yet, to hear just, like, how much better you are doing in life and how free you are after
Totally for
all of those symptoms, like, wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
and right down to, like, I was noticing this, at the conference, like, I didn't give a single thought to what I was eating, and travel was such a major thing, like, I desperately wanted to go on vacation. I love warm Caribbean water. I
Mm.
love swimming. I'm like a, little fish inside there,
Mm.
and, All I wanna do is, like, look at them, and I love snorkeling.
Oh,
And it was so hard to travel because of all my food allergies. I mean, I had
of course.
so many,
Yeah.
so many.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
yeah.
the fact that
And to
I
come to us, yeah, just eat whatever the hell you want.
eat
That's
whatever.
so freeing.
Yeah,
That is so freeing.
right. Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
So,
okay,
yeah,
let's talk about shame.
okay. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, like, I think we've, like, leapt over what I did right and wrong, but we can
Oh,
do them
okay.
both at the
What
same time if you want, or which
perfect.
works better first? Um,
Well, maybe if there's a little more of, like, what you did on your journey that was, we could do a little of that
okay.
before we get to shame.
So here's what I would say. Things that I did right were I didn't stay in bed. I resisted. I did not just surrender into it. I did do things that were regulating to the nervous system, like meditation and yoga and that kind of thing. Shifted my lifestyle. But here's the thing that I did wrong about that is I resented them all.
Mm,
At one
wow.
point, right? Like,
Yeah.
uh, sad, right? And there was a moment when I realized, whew, that I was relating to my body. This was a therapy moment. This is a good therapy moment. That I was relating to my body the way that I think my parents responded to me when I had emotional needs, which is kind of
Literally, Ellen, yes. Yeah, same. Go ahead.
like inconvenient. Come on,
Yeah.
chop chop. Like figured it out, right?
Yeah.
And oh, it's sad, right? Like
It is.
I'm healed, you're healed, but it's still sad because it's not ideal.
Yeah.
Um, so there was that being frustrated and trying to fix them and all that intense energy. We talked about that.
Yeah.
But then there was also like even once I found how to sort of nurture myself, I resented doing it because
Yeah.
there was sort of a story of like, good God, like if I didn't get this back then, why the fuck do I have to do it now?
Yeah. Yeah.
Someone else
Right.
do it, damn it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that comes back to I haven't met anyone yet with mind body symptoms who didn't have some level of what I call, attachment trauma, like
Yeah.
in imperfect attachments where they just weren't mirrored, their emotions weren't mirrored, and
Yeah.
they got, in my case, in a lot of people's cases, I think they get a lot. I got, I didn't get verbal abuse, I did not get sexual, physical abuse, any no big D
Mhm.
traumas.
Mhm.
Thank you, right, for
Right.
protecting. Thank you.
Yes, right. Yeah.
Let's but what I didn't get is like I got invalidated for whatever my very sensitive emotions were doing at the time. And I was dysregulated. I was a sensitive kid and they
Yeah.
just didn't know what to do with that. And so when that happens, I think, there was a lot in my family about being successful and they really set you up for success, right? They're great parents. Except that
Right.
success isn't what makes a kid healthy emotionally. It
Mm.
isn't.
Well said. Well said.
It's
Well
seeing
said.
your kid. It's noticing what's unique and beautiful about your kid and commenting on that, right?
Yes.
And so I think I couldn't do it for myself, and then I resented that, even having to do
Yeah.
it once I finally figured out I needed to do it.
Yeah.
So those were, but in terms of like back to this idea of not getting nurtured, like when I discovered energy medicine, that felt like, oh, that might be the key to healing. But again, long before I learned this mind body model, because
Mhm.
it was like, well, it's gentle. It's like mysterious to me. I don't know how it works, but all I can tell you is conventional medicine doesn't work. And at least these people listen to me and
Yeah.
they don't
Right.
seem to pathologize me for being sensitive, right?
Right. So at least that's something,
It
right?
is. But I think what happened is back to doing the right things wrong.
Yeah.
I think energy medicine can really have a powerful regulating effect on the nervous system because you can clear a lot of junk. Because I've studied a lot of energy work and use it in my therapy with clients, but I was approaching it like this is the fix.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
like if she does enough treatments on me, like my GI issues will go away, or the dizziness will
Yeah.
go away, and that's to set the record straight. The energy work is fabulous if you can target the emotional issues that are generating the symptoms. If you use the energy work to target that, great,
Mhm.
right? But if
Mhm.
you're expecting the energy work to sort of do this magic thing, this magic wand thing,
Mhm.
game over, So I spent
Mhm. Mhm.
so much money, so much time.
Oh god, yeah. Let me just pull out of there what it sounds like. I want to clarify this. Like you were doing the energy work with a similar intention, like that your parents might have had towards you, which was like, okay, like don't feel this, don't do this, and the better way to do it is like with the energy you wish you had gotten, which was like explore yourself, be yourself. Is it that, or would you
You
put
know
it
what?
differently?
I like sort of juxtapose two things so much that you melded them in together. Whenever I was doing any kind of self care, maybe it was PT exercises, maybe it was my yoga or meditation, maybe it was the dry brushing the doctor recommended, and God knows how many other silly regimens that
Sure,
probably had nothing to do with what was going to fix me, right? But
sure.
whenever I was doing them with an energy of resentment. And so, and that was what I was referring to with sort of the parental thing. But this is a different issue, which is
Got it.
another
Okay.
thing I did wrong was, you know, looking for treatments. And in my case, it wasn't surgery or back braces or injections. In my case, it was a lot of supplements and it was a lot of energy work. I was
Yeah.
looking to those things to fix the problem.
I see what you mean. Yeah.
Yeah.
Got it. Got it. Without an understanding that like the emotional underpinnings are the real problem. Is that
Correct.
what you mean?
And like I
Gotcha.
said, if I had said to the energy worker, you know what, I do this all the time with clients, um, shame-based thinking, okay, you can't seem to help yourself with that. Okay, let's find some key targets that set you up for that. Let's do energy work on that, like some trauma release techniques for that
Mm,
memory that set you up for this shame-based thinking. That'll actually help because we know that
mhm.
shame-based thinking contributes to chronic symptoms. More on that in a
Right.
minute. Stay tuned, everyone. But
Yeah. Don't change that dial.
you're so cute. But doing it, just going to the energy worker and be like, fix my health.
Yeah.
I was probably a little more sophisticated than that, but that just doesn't work. But like, for example, I tell my clients all the time, go ahead and get a massage, but get a massage with this attitude. I want to practice getting into a deeply relaxed state. And because I have such a hard time doing that, this other person is going to help me. But once I'm going to work on all my resistance to getting relaxed and I'm going to indulge in it, I'm going to love it. I'm going to feel nurtured by this fellow human. And I'm going to
Mm.
carve out an hour and a half for myself for this very thing. I am practicing what heals, right? As opposed to she's gonna go work out those knots that's causing all these tight muscles that makes my back so painful,
Absolutely.
right?
Yes, something I've talked about on this podcast before is like, especially with the like body-based remedies, it's not so much about what you do that's important, it's the energy with which you do it that's important.
Hallelujah.
And you're illustrate
Amen.
yes, we're on the same page. We're
Right.
talking about the same thing.
Totally, totally, totally. Yep. And then the other thing is like, with all my food allergies, I was tracking them and all that. All that attention is a terrible idea. But when you have really significant food allergies, I've heard some people sort of like just discount that like food allergies aren't a thing, so just eat freely. Once you have all this predictive coding built up, all these conditioned responses to no, dairy gives me gut problems. I get it. In
Mhm.
the beginning, it wasn't the dairy. But then we make associations between dairy and my stomach hurts. And then later the brain really does give you stomach hurt,
Mhm.
when you've had dairy because of predictive
Mhm.
coding, because
Yeah.
right? And so then
Right, the fear is of the dairy, like, that's the
correct.
danger signal. It's like, I yeah, exactly.
Exactly. So I think again, that's why I'm so all about like what's the why behind the method, right? And so in that
Yeah.
case, eating willy-nilly, at the start isn't a good idea. Doing it very gradually so you're not scared is a good idea, right? So all those principles I didn't have, and so, um, I don't know, like, so in other words, I was so intense about my healing that I used all my intensity to sort of control my food, right? And
Mhm.
a lot of people think they get rid of their intensity. I don't even know if that's true. It's part of my stripes, man. Like, I'm so my father's daughter. But here's what you can do. You can funnel that intensity into a different thing, right? I'm gonna take my
Mm.
intensity and use it with the principles of the program in mind and get some real traction because I'm so freaking
Mhm.
committed. Do you see what I
Mhm.
mean? So,
I do.
like, I'm all about repurposing.
I love no, that's great. That's amazing. And yeah, like, if you're an intense person, yeah, own it, right? And I'm the same way, like, I feel like I'm, like, chill in a lot of ways, and I'm super type A in other ways. Doing this work has not changed that, and I don't know that it will, you know?
Right, that's that back to the both end of, like, I like to talk about, like, softening the edges of but also, some pretty deep self-acceptance. This is who I am. I am sensitive to the
Yes.
core, right? And,
Yes.
I'm
Same.
gonna feel my feels. There's not I'm not gonna be someone else.
Yeah.
Um, I will say that, for example, like, my high intense, like, productivity thing that I got from my family and, that managed for shame, again, we'll get to that in a second. I think sometimes, like, hitting a problem direct on, like, the problem with so many of us have trouble being productive, right?
Yeah.
Measuring our worth with what we get done. That I
Yeah.
think actually the workaround there is go have fun and somehow you get a different attitude about your to-do list in the process. Like, "Oh, it's so fun, I just don't even give a shit about my list." You know? I
There we
think
go.
there are some things we can funnel the intensity, and there's some things you're just like, "Okay, I've gotta take my intensity, use it to prioritize the thing that I know will work. Ellen says it'll work. Okay, I'll do it, go have fun."
Mhm.
Have the
I
fun,
love that.
have the fun,
Yeah.
and then all
Yeah.
of a sudden you're more relaxed about your list? So,
Yes.
yeah, because I think for a long time I just fought with my relationship with my list so long that it just I just kept fighting, and that's not
Yeah.
that never worked. It just
Yeah.
didn't.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, I love that both and it's like, of course, we're all capable of change and relaxing and being better people, and we all are who we are, and we're not gonna change the core of who we are.
Correct, correct. Just a couple more things that I was thinking of about doing the right things the wrong way. So all that time I was in therapy, for example, one of the ways that my shame showed up, again, we'll get to that, but I was very obsessive in my decision making process. And
Mhm.
back to doing the right thing the wrong way, like I would take that indecision about whatever the latest decision was to my therapist and and try to hash out that decision. And in hindsight, I think this is really where I think I was failed by therapists because if I were the therapist in that situation, I'd be like, "There's a bigger problem here, which is that you're so obsessive about your decision making. Let's like
Mm,
try to help you understand that, and then maybe it'll
mm,
trickle down to help you crack the code on being so obsessive with everything, so that you don't keep coming to us, coming to me to ask how to fix or make this particular decision." And
yeah.
that's an example of, like, where I think therapy didn't serve me because it
Yeah.
actually do you know what I mean? And the same
Yeah, right,
like,
right.
I would go to them for validation about the things that I felt crazy about in my, relationships, and great, they validated me, but they never taught me how to validate me.
Sure. Yeah. That's huge.
And in that regard, like, I feel very strongly about this. Like, I think for the first at least half of my career, I was like an empathy machine. Like, you pay money like a vending machine and then out spits empathy. I don't mean to like
Mhm.
disparage what I did entirely because I did far more than that. But what I'm saying is I don't think another person delivering empathy, it has to start with that because you have to feel safe with someone. But
Mhm.
this idea that that's the solution and the long-term solution, it isn't. You need to
Right.
become self-validating if you're gonna heal
Yeah.
from chronic symptoms, right?
Yes.
And
Yes.
I think my therapy, back to what I was doing right the wrong way, I think my therapy only got me so far because no one said, "Ellen, you do it for yourself right now,"
Yeah.
which is what I do with my
Yeah.
clients.
That's amazing, and for people listening, like, take that in, like, take that in, like, you can validate yourself, and you have to, right? Like, that's what you're saying, Ellen, right?
You
Like, you
totally
kinda have
you
to.
do, and you're gonna resent it, it's gonna feel corny, it's gonna feel terrible, you're gonna be pissed off about it. I was all those things.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
And now, honestly, I've changed so much. This is how neural networks work, right? I've changed so much about it. It's almost like I don't even wanna bother telling someone else because they won't do it as well as I will.
That's amazing. Good, good. Shall
Anyway,
we
yes,
discuss shame?
we
We
definitely
ready?
should. And we've dabbled on it
Alright.
already, right?
Certainly, certainly. Are you on the edge of your seats like I am? Because I want you to know, yes, part 2 is going to be just as good, if not better, than part 1. Maybe I wouldn't say better because both parts are actually 10 out of 10. Tune in next week for part 2 of this conversation with Ellen Ronka, and we're going to get deep into shame. Deep into shame. That is a hard place to be, but we can go there safely. We don't have to be afraid. And Ellen is going to teach us a lot of, like she's going to talk us through the way that she works with her clients in order to move people through shame. Okay, this has been great, and I will see you next week.